Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad you're with us today to stay curious. Today, kind of a special little program where we're going to look at some incredible images from this spacecraft on our green screen, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, which began orbiting the red planet 18 years ago on March 10th, celebrating that in 2006. So, this is a mission that has lasted a lot longer than NASA expected it to. Built by Lockheed Martin, the spacecraft was guaranteed to spend 4 years orbiting Mars, and here it's gone over 4 times longer. And it has made discoveries of water on Mars, its main mission, but more importantly, it has provided a relay station between four American Mars rovers, the Spirit and Opportunity, of course, of the Mars Excursion Rover program, and then the two SUV-sized vehicles, Curiosity and Perseverance. And if we would lose this spacecraft, we would have a communication problem with the rovers that we have on the ground right now. And my forward thinking is NASA does not have in the queue or in place the hardware to replace a orbiter that has been so significant to our understanding of Mars as this one has been. We'll talk about the most powerful camera it has orbiting any object in the solar system, and 18 years later, it is still providing incredible science. And of course, seeing Mars through many seasons as well as the same areas of Mars over and over. And it has discovered some incredible things about water seeping at the craters, through the edges of craters, standing water on craters in the poles, and atmospheric phenomenon that we're still trying to sort out. So hope you kick back and enjoy a few beautiful pictures from this Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter as we celebrate it and the other orbiters going around Mars. How many do you think are orbiting Mars at this very moment? And I'm going to say hi to Selvin Trotter, who's jumped into. I'm already had an appointment this afternoon. Thank you, Selvin, for
welcome.
Pinch hitting today on our Streamlabs board here. How many satellites you would guess are orbiting Mars at the very moment? It's under 10. No guess? Okay. Won't put you on the spot there.
I was going to say, there's something like 43 in the Starliner that's going on.
Well, yeah, and the Starliner's got 40 some in there when they send them up there, the SpaceX for their
How many are there?
right, their Starlink system there. We've got thousands of satellites orbiting Earth. 7 orbiters are surveying the planet Mars right now. And let me tell you those here in just a second. Wanted to just throw in there a little commercial that's the front of our beautiful American Space Museum at 308 Pine Street, and hope that you all can find your way through our doors someday. We've been very busy during spring break and bike week going on Daytona Beach. So a great time to be at our museum. We got some great docents, and we're very affordable, $10 adults, $8 for senior citizens and military. Kids under 12 are free. So those teenagers, we just take $5 from them. But also to support our museum, you can go to our website and make a tax-deductible donation. And we hope that some of you supported us by buying something on the auction Saturday. We conducted a beautiful auction, over 360 lots. I was watching some of it there, and then had to report yet in of how well everybody did, consigners and bid again auctions. But we hope that you helped us by buying something in our auction, and our next one will be April 13th. Well, here's the planet Mars. This is through a ground-based telescope that an amateur can do in his backyard basically these days. And a couple things you notice when you see Mars is, one, it's red, and two, it has continent type features that are not continents at all. They don't move by tectonic plates, but they're lowland areas and darker areas that the desert are around there. Now, the deserts are red. Why is Mars red? Because it's covered in rust. Where's the rust come from? You got to have water to rust. That's right. Mars was engulfed in so much water, maybe more than the Earth had. These desert areas could be where we think the oceans of Mars were. And this is one particular famous site of Mars called Syrtis Major with that triangular shape. And actually to the left side of the triangle is where Perseverance is. And up in the left corner of this global shot of Mars is where Curiosity is. But we've got 7 spacecraft orbiting Mars. 3 are American. Those would be one of the longest ever. Mars Odyssey has been orbiting since 2011. It is the longest orbiting spacecraft around any planet other than the Earth. All right. It's been active since, well, we're talking 2021. It went into orbit in 2002, so it's in its 22nd year and 4th month observing Mars. And it didn't have as powerful cameras, so you don't see as much imagery, but it had other scientific experiments on it that's gauging the particularly radiation on the surface of Mars. So Mars Odyssey, launched in 2001, will be the bedrock for radiation that astronauts on the surface can endure. Mars Express is another old European space agency, beautiful spacecraft. It's been orbiting since December 2003. And then our Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has been orbiting since March 2006. So we have MAVEN, is a NASA spacecraft that is gauging atmospheric properties around Mars. And also ESA and Russia have a spacecraft, ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, which has been orbiting now for about 8 years. And the other countries that have Mars spacecraft orbiting are the Emirates, United Arab Emirates has their spacecraft Hope. It's been in orbit now since February 2021. And right after that, Chinese orbited Tianwen-1 around Mars. So those are the 7 orbiters. Now, every 2 years is an opportunity when Mars is close to Earth to launch a spacecraft. They call that the opposition of Mars, or any object closest approach to the Earth. So that opposition every 2 years, we want to send spacecraft in a queue every 2 years. And NASA was doing that in the 60s and 70s, rarely missing a 2-year opportunity to send something to Mars. Well, believe me, there's nothing on the books right now except drawing boards to send a spacecraft to Mars. And this is a problem because Perseverance has been taking samples of Martian soil, putting them in test tubes, dropping it along its drive across the Martian surface to be picked up by another robot in the future. But that robot has not been okayed financially, or is it even being built? So also, with humans wanting to go to Mars, we need to put an infrastructure of satellites around Mars so we can have constant communication from the surface. So there's a lot to be worked out when people say we want to go to Mars. But we're going to explain a little bit of how the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, otherwise known as MRO, and its partners there, have really revolutionized how we look at Mars by this powerful camera. It's actually a telescope attached with a camera attached to it. And here are the 3 major NASA missions of Mars in the last 2 decades. Odyssey still orbiting. Mars Global Surveyor has finally shut down. That was another important spacecraft to plan where we could land on Mars. And then MRO there is about twice the size of these other vehicles, as you can see on the left. their profiles next to a person. Well, we're going to see a couple people next to them. Here we are. There is the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter in the White Room. All right, before it was launched. This is 2005, or it could have been early 2006. No, 2005. It was launched August 2005. So this is sometime in the summer 2005 in the White Room. It's quite big, as you can see. There's the workers below it in their bunny suits, and you see the big fairing that launched this in Atlas Centaur rocket off pad 41, put it in space. And who's that peeping through that mast there? That's none other than Carlton Bailey. Carlton was on hand there to get the MRO in the White Room with all the other media there. You can see the workers on the right. He took this picture right there. Whoop, let's go this way, of the workers there, piled up there. There you see he got a selfie while they were still working on buttoning up the spacecraft, apparently, to put it in the fairing there. So, Carlton Bailey, thank you for sharing these pictures with us today and rounding out our program with some human existence there in the White Room. And now this spacecraft has been orbiting Mars for 18 years, and you're going to see some of the most breathtaking photographs taken in the entire solar system. Mars, by the way, is in the morning sky. You get up early and you will see a bright planet Venus just above the horizon before sunrise, and Mars is to the upper right of Venus. It'll be reddish, not as bright as Venus. It'll still be a very bright star, but it will be playing into our evening skies by late summer. So we'll be watching as the Earth goes around the sun. It will be climbing steadily into our later evening skies here soon. The most powerful camera ever orbited is called the HiRISE camera. It is actually an acronym for High Resolution Imaging Science Experiment. It is a 20-inch mirror. Now, a lot of astronomers would love in their backyard a 20-inch mirror. The largest ever carried to deep space. You could see down to 1 foot with this, all right, resolution, whereas a satellite imagery of Earth is around 2 foot level. So this actually can see it's about 190 miles above the Martian surface, about where our satellites that do this sort of reconnaissance work would be also. So a very powerful, very big telescope with a camera attached to it. Of course, 20 years ago, this was the latest CCD camera of the time, and now it's eclipsed by your pocket camera. Basically, if we could put your cameras you have in your purse or pocket around Mars, it would even give better resolution through this telescope. So there's some of the components of this important MRO. Let's look at there's another beautiful shot of it in space there, showing the main purpose of this was to find water on Mars 18 years ago, and it did in a very, very big way. It was to observe the present climate, particularly the atmospheric circulation and seasonal variations. They were hoping, like I said, originally a 2-year mission, then extended to 4. 18 years later, it is still providing the bedrock science and what we know about Mars. It searched for signs of water, both past and present, to understand how it has altered the planet's surface. And it was to map and characterize the geological forces that shaped the surface. But also it was to provide a data relay service from the ground back to Earth for the rovers, and also characterize the safety and feasibility of potential future landing sites and rover traverses, okay? So this has been an important spacecraft to choose the landing sites for NASA's Phoenix. That was a stationary rover in 2008 at the North Pole. The Curiosity in 2012, the rover. And InSight, another lander that was a static lander in 2018. And the rover Perseverance in 2020. So the total cost was about $700 million for the launch, the development, and everything, and 5 years of operation. So it's about a $500 million spacecraft all told. And then the operations is about $30 million a year. Now, they're not going to turn the plug off because they can't find the $30 million to hire the technicians. That has happened, though, before. But this is too important of a spacecraft because this is our major link with the rovers. Okay, occasionally they'll link something up with some of the other rovers, including the Mars Odyssey, but it's getting pretty wore out also. So if this would go down, we would not be able to communicate with our rovers. The rovers would have to communicate with Earth directly, and that we would not get the data that we would get, and we wouldn't get the resolution of photos that we're getting from the surface. So, well, here's some mind-blowing pictures of Mars, and to explain a few things about what goes on Mars. One, Mars is half the size of Earth. Two, it is very cold on Mars. It is like Antarctica. Forget it getting 50 degrees and you take your shirt off, okay? No. If you're going to not wear shorts on Mars, you're going to be bundled up like Antarctica because Mars's atmosphere is so thin. It's 100 times thinner than the Earth. It's like the air up on 7 miles high up on Mount Everest, where you've got to take your own oxygen with you, okay? You cannot be able to breathe Martian air. It's mostly carbon dioxide, even if it was thick enough. But it does sustain weather. And what we're looking at on the left is a dust devil and the shadow of the dust devil that Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter captured. Dust devils are very common on Mars, and they have cleaned off the surfaces of solar panels on Spirit and Opportunity and allowed them to live longer on Mars. So that's an anomaly. Even in a thin atmosphere, you see Mars has weather. It also has global dust storms that nobody talks about when you talk about going to Mars. About once every 10 years is a dust storm that completely covers the surface and you can't see those dark markings or the polar caps. This thin atmosphere sustains this very, very fine Martian soil in the atmosphere. So other things that we've looked around and seen with Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, that's a dust devil on the left. That is a fresh impact crater on the right, probably impacted within the last couple hundred years, they think, leaving all of this new material to be analyzed from inside. On the left are some of the cliffs that are over in undulating plains. The center, again, a dust devil over some of the desert area. And behind me is the moon Phobos of Mars. Mars has two moons, Phobos and Deimos. Both look like potatoes, if you want to get right down to it. And both are probably captured asteroids. Here's a gorgeous picture. Mars itself could be a photo album of abstract art. And what's going on here is a sand dune, okay? A sand dune that's not I erroneously said here that looked like a dust devil. No, dust devil's on the left. This is a sand dune that's been contoured in this way by Martian winds. As you see, winds are going counterclockwise around there. Just a gorgeous view of one small area of Mars, probably about the size of less than 5 miles across, as this is. A crater impact about the size of a football field or soccer field, about 300 yards across, and what a mess it made on the surface. They can't really tell if this is 100 years old or 50 years old, but they do know it's not. If it was impacted within the 18 years that MRO was orbiting, they would be able to know it was a new one. Well, here's a lander that was on Mars, roving around Mars at one day, and that is this lander. Opportunity landed in this bag. This is the landing platform of the bag, okay? It bounced like 20 times. The spacecraft was inside of that. It survived it. Twice we did this with the Spirit and Opportunity rovers of NASA that are the size of golf carts. And this bag, as you can see, the bags are deflated. The red soil that they hit, bouncing around, it was weighted so that it would land and flip over the right way so that the rover could just crawl off of it. And there's that landing pad by MRO. Another gorgeous photograph of the science we really don't understand. Such a thin atmosphere creating this kind of sculpture on the surface of Mars. You see it all over this wind whipped sand, basically. There's another gorgeous picture. And over time, over its 18 years, MRO has photographed these same areas and see how the dune patterns change and get an idea of, where we should and where we shouldn't land on Mars. These are always awesome photos to see from MRO. This is a large crater about 20 miles across. And what you notice is on the crater edges are dark areas that, look like little water gullies that went all the way down to the bottom of the crater. And that is indeed what they are. Over a Martian season, you can see the white at the edges here. This is frost, permafrost. And as Mars warms up, the surface gets up to 50 degrees, okay? But don't let that fool you, because if it's 50 degrees at your feet, the atmosphere is so thin at the top of your head, it's only going to be below zero probably. You'll be lucky if it is zero. Above your 6 feet above the ground. It's freezing, even if you can put your hand and feel the warmth of the sand there. So you see these rovers going off. These striated areas are little mini areas where water may have flown down. Now they're not catching the water because it sublimates. The atmosphere is so thin and barometric pressure so low that water would go right to a gas. As this ice in a crater we saw on October 18th, 2008, an example of where MRO keeps photographing the same areas over and over and sees changes. That is frost that is on this small crater that has evaporated, or ice. It was actually probably bigger, like a mini glacier right there inside that crater, and then it disappeared 6 months later. I love looking at pictures of this on Mars. What you're looking at is a cave. You're looking at a crater that you're looking at the bottom of the crater. There's a hole in it. Kind of like those ants or those bugs that make a little cone like this, and they're at the bottom of it waiting to eat you up as you fall in there. Hope there's nothing at the bottom of this, any Martians to eat you up. But caves are where we're going to probably find life on Mars, because inside of caves they are away from the harsh UV light of the sun, which just fries the surface like a microwave oven. Nothing can live on the surface of Mars because, one, the atmosphere is not dense enough, and two, there's no protective ozone layer, and the radiation is just so intense it just sterilizes everything on the surface. But underneath Mars, on this interesting crater, could be little Martian roly-polies or albino crickets or something. I think we'll definitely find microbic life under the surface of Mars. Mars has a lot of caves because it has a lot of volcanoes that are now extinct. This is an incredible photograph where MRO, going at 10,000 miles an hour around Mars in about 2 hours, witnessed a avalanche. All right, because that's what's going on here. On the left, you see the main panorama picture that MRO took, and on the right, you see the dust cloud. You see debris actually falling at the moment that it captured these images. Isn't that so incredible? And of course, that's ice on the top of this crater. What caused all of this to landslide? We don't know. Was it a Mars quake? Was it just the evaporation of the ice on top? We will study this over and over and over. another gorgeous view of the dunes of Mars. These aren't so red. These are up near the North Pole, where those are actual chunks of ice, they think, just laying on top of the surface. Carbon dioxide ice, though, probably. Here is the Climate Observer lander, the InSight. When InSight landed on Mars, MRO was there to capture the actual landing, and then where it's set down in the middle there, you see the exhaust plume around it. Now, this gives you an indication of wherever we land on any alien body, our exhaust is going to make a mess of the local area there. You can see how that discolors it and also changes the chemistry of it. This is the Chinese lander and rover. That's the main landing platform. And just like our Opportunity and Spirit, it had the platform landed. You see the exhaust plumes going, of course, up and down there, the lighter areas. And that is the rover down at the bottom that China put on Mars in 2020. And there is that rover and the lander in the background. The rover actually set down a camera and then backed off for this incredible selfie from the surface of Mars. But this is just as incredible to see where it landed. So nothing escapes the eye of the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. And who knows, we probably have better resolution than that's given to the Defense Department. Well, this is one of the rovers rover eye view of Mars. This is Perseverance. And what was very interesting was how Curiosity was captured landing on Mars, and so is Perseverance. And you're going to see some. Now, how we did that was a sky crane that was lowered from a parachute, and then the sky crane lowered these SUV-sized rovers to the surface. What I think is just an amazing photo is this is Curiosity suspended from its parachute enlarged there over the area of Mars where it landed. You can see it looks like there was water flowing there by the dried riverbeds and so forth. And this is Perseverance at the moment that the parachutes let go, and you see the exhaust plumes from the sky crane. Oh my gosh, what a photo. I can't even imagine the calculations to have the orbiter there at the right place, and that this is going to happen, and to be taking photos of this, just incredible. This is what it looked like from Perseverance as that parachute unfolded, and it's landing like this, okay, with the sky crane over my body here, actually following where the lander with artificial intelligence figuring out where's the safest place to land. Now, these are all from Perseverance. They're showing you the sky crane, the camera from the above, taking a picture of the suspended rover. Just something else to see these images from a world that is at closest 30 million miles away. The Mars hardly ever comes 40 million miles away, let's put it that way. And right now it's probably about 200 million miles away. And here is where Perseverance landed. The landing site was right on target there. As you can see, it looks like this whole crater, Gale crater, was covered with water. And this is a tributary that came into it from the upper left up there. Just astounding to watch these images of Mars as we celebrate one of the great missions of NASA, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, now in its 18th year. And Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter took a photograph of Perseverance as it's roving and around this once lake bed. It has found water, evidence of water everywhere. The striated mountains and so forth are another evidence of layering in ocean water there. But this is how good we can see the orbiter Perseverance and Curiosity too from Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter 200 miles up. There's a Percy shot of Ingenuity. You've heard about the helicopter that's finally ended its life. It actually crashed in the dunes. It set down kind of an emergency landing, they think, because its artificial intelligence was fooled by the plainness of the dunes. There wasn't enough separation of detail to see where it was, and it decided just to set down. And when it did, one of its rotors hit on the sand dune and broke off, so it's not going to be flying anymore. Still an incredible shot from the planet Mars. And no, this isn't Southwest the United States. This is Mars, where Perseverance is. You see the striated land, evidence of, in the background, evidence that there was layers of silt on top of silt on top of silt. Where Perseverance is now would have been underwater 3 billion years ago. So hope that you enjoy this look back at our hard work in Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter there, and these beautiful shots of Mars, just to refresh your memory that when you look up at the night sky, there's more than meets the eye, particularly when you're looking at Mars, as we have 7 spacecraft orbiting Mars and 3 on the surface of Mars, okay, that are operating. We think the Chinese orbiter rover might not be working, but its station might still be working. So, but it's truly a golden age of planetary astronomy. What we've learned about Mars is enough to go and land on it safely, I think. But to sustain humans on it, we need a lot of food. We're going to need some shelter from that harsh radiation. And we're going to need to think some things through, like these Martian winds. By the way, the Martian movie that was a big Hollywood blockbuster starts out with Martian winds knocking over the spacecraft. That's why the astronaut was left there. They had to quickly get off or it was going to tilt over. And those winds are not that strong to do that. That was one of the few glaring errors of science on that movie. But we have to worry about the whole globe of Mars being covered up as it was on the opposition of 2018. Very disappointing. We all look forward to seeing Mars every 2 years through our telescopes. And that was completely clouded out. Most of that close opposition. You couldn't see the features through your backyard telescope. So what's that going to be like with people on Mars if that happens, or when that happens? Nobody's thought that through yet. So, well, Selvin, we got any comments or questions?
Well, not really any comments or questions. Connie's on here.
Thank you, Connie.
We had Dave Stingy, Mark Ziak, Carlton Bailey, Dead Forest, Steve J, Connie, Tom Uziak, Gary Jerry L, and Carlton Bailey. I think I said before.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching Stay Curious today. Tell your friends that we do space history. We do something outside the box like we did today, featuring a spacecraft that's so important to what we know about Mars. And we're going to have some guests all week, so stay tuned for the National Space Society guests tomorrow. Gabriel Rothblatt, the executive director there, and Jennifer Muntz are going to talk about the 321 Ozzy Day, celebrating Ozzy Osbourne, the man who is the godfather of the 321 area code and so much more. We're going to do that a week from Thursday. Will be the 321 on March 21st. Wednesday, we're going to take you in some backyard astronomy and celebrate the discovery of the planet Uranus. And Thursday, we're going to have the one and only Jean Wright here. Jean is going to talk about her book, The So Sister, a children's book that adults would really enjoy. She spent 8 years working on the shuttle in the group that sewed the blankets on the space shuttle. What do you mean by that? Well, we can have Jean explain those blankets to you on Stay Curious on Thursday. And then we're going to have a world expert on food in space. Gary Studi is going to be here for your questions and answers about how in the heck we're going to feed ourselves on the way to Mars, okay? That's a lot of food to take with you, and Gary Studi is one of the world experts on growing food in space. He's been doing it on the space station for 20 years. Finally, he says they let him eat some lettuce up there. But serious consideration, you just can't pack it all up in bouillon cubes and freeze-dried packs to keep astronauts who are exerting a lot of calories doing their thing, particularly when we go to Mars. So got a great week lined up for you, and I hope that you can join us. Until next time, I'm Marquette saying we can't wait to bridge the space between us.